Carole Jean-Whittington and I are going to discuss the concept of autistic leadership, emphasizing its non-hierarchical structure and collaborative nature. Carole will highlight the importance of self-leadership and self-compassion, noting that autistic leaders often lead by example and within our community. We will address the challenges faced by autistic women, particularly in navigating burnout and societal expectations. Our conversation will also touch on the interdependence within the autistic community and the need for support systems. Carole Jean-Whittington is the host of the Beyond Chronic Burnout podcast and author who brings her articulation and enthusiasm to this conversation about what is autistic leadership on today's Autistic Moment.
Forever, so let yourself shine. Every time you feel you're down on yourself, look inside, you'll find you got what it takes. Yeah, I can tell you can make it, you can reach the top. Here's your chance, just take it. The ones to
Today is your day on today's Autistic Moment, a podcast for autistic adults by an autistic adult, where autistic adults get to be yourselves in a space that is safe and made especially for you. While listening to this podcast, stim and fidget all you like. This first segment of today's Autistic Moment is sponsored by the Autism Society of Minnesota, known as AWESOME throughout Minnesota's autism community. As Minnesota's first autism resource for more than 50 years, AWESOME serves the whole state, the whole spectrum for the whole life. Visit AWESOME at ausm.org. Before we begin to dig into today's topic, I want to give some basic information about today's Autistic Moment to help all listeners find our many resources. Please visit todaysautisticmoment.com, where you can listen to the podcast, get transcripts, program updates, and read the guest bios pages. You can also visit the Adult Autism Resources links page. Please visit the Future Shows page to read the titles, guests, and descriptions of all the shows coming up. The transcripts are sponsored by Minnesota Independence College and Community. There is a link provided to get access to a document form of the transcript without the purple colored background so that you can print it without using up the ink on your printer. The written document has a font that is accessible for dyslexics. There are additional transcripts available in Spanish, German, French, and Chinese simplified. Please follow Today's Autistic Moment on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. Join Today's Autistic Moment community group page on Facebook for conversations and updates. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel at Today's Autistic Moment to watch the newest episode of Autistic Voices Roundtable Discussions. I am autistic. I am not disordered. My panelists, Eric Garcia, Darren Howard, Gillian Nelson, and I talked together about the moment when we discovered that we are autistic and when we realized that we are not disordered. We spoke about how the recent remarks that suggest that autism is a, quote, danger to society, end of quote, and that there is no, quote, autism epidemic, end of quote. If you are looking for some great talking points to help you have conversations about how to advocate for autistics in these harsh times, this new episode of Autistic Voices Roundtable Discussions will help you do that. After this first commercial break, Carole Jean-Whittington and I will discuss what is autistic leadership. Today's Autistic Moment can be downloaded and heard on most podcast apps, including Apple, Google Play, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, Amazon Music, Audible, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser. If you are looking for the transcripts, go to todaysautisticmoment.com, click on the episode you want to listen to, and follow the directions to find the transcripts. Thank you for listening to Today's Autistic Moment.
Does it feel like all your support systems are in separate silos? Does it seem like there are mixed messages and you don't know which way to turn? Being part of a system is hard. It would be helpful to have the tools in your life toolbox to help navigate those silos. Looking Forward Life Coaching can provide support to fill that toolbox to prepare you to bridge those silos. Being person-centered, Looking Forward Life Coaching equips an individual to advocate for their needs. With coaching one-on-one, bridging the gap between the silos of services, you can feel more confident that your needs and desires are met. If you would like more information or would like to schedule a free meet and greet, please visit our website at www.lookingforwardlc.org or call us at 612-504-7414. Looking Forward Life Coaching helps change stumbling blocks of life into stepping stones towards success.
Support for today's Autistic Moment comes from Best Care Home Care Agency. Best Care offers PCA services, and your friend or family member could be your paid PCA. Best Care also offers homemaking, FMS services, and 2, 4, 5D services throughout the Metro and Greater Minnesota. Visit their website, bestcaremn.com, to learn more about their services. Carole Jean-Whittington, it is my pleasure to welcome you back to today's Autistic Moment. I am really excited to have you here and to talk about a topic that I know you are able to discuss. So, welcome back, my friend.
Thrilled to be here as always, Philip. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
And yes, it is one of my favorite topics.
Well, the thing is that you are able to talk about um, autistic and ADHD and, of course, burnout, which is your specialty, but you're also able to talk about the diversity that exists. So I know that when we talk about what is autistic leadership, you are going to give some of the best advice, um, and I always appreciate your enthusiasm and your depth, as well as making it accessible information. And so that's why I'm glad to have you here. To start off, let's build a foundation for our conversation today. And I'm just going to ask it this way: what does autistic leadership look like in light of my topic this year, which is navigating the future of multidimensional autistic leadership?
So I'm going to say we have to back up actually just a freckle before that
No problem.
and really just start with what is leadership
Yes.
first. And, if we take the dictionary definition, it's the action of leading a group of people or an organization. And I love McKinsey and Company's definition of just leadership in general. And it's leadership is a set of mindsets and behaviors that align people in a collective direction and enables them to work together and accomplish shared goals and helps them adjust to changing environments. I think that's such a beautiful and really wonderful definition. I also just adore Robin Sharma. And he he has a word that I use and I love, and it's called possibilitarian. And I think as we move into talking about autistic leadership, we are possibilitarians. Just, I think it is part of our nature, it's part of our makeup as autistic people. And Robin Sharma has a definition of leadership. And he says leadership is not about a title or position. And I think that so speaks to how we as autistic people approach leadership. We don't have these social norms of title or position when we think about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin Sharma says that leadership is rather about the ability to positively influence, inspire, and impact others through your actions, leaving them better than you found them.
Mm.
And to me, that really speaks to how I have become to define and live being an autistic leader.
I want to refer back to something that Devin Price said, and my audience is going to hear this a lot this year, and you know that. But what I loved about what he defined as autistic leadership is that autistics are able to lead without a hierarchical environment. I thought that was just brilliant. You want to? Can you add a little bit more to that, because I have a feeling that's
because
exactly
that's what I'm
where
talking. That's what I'm
exactly
talking
where you're
about
going. So
specifically.
go ahead.
As I shift us from what are the societal norms and the accepted definition of leadership. So we kind of just laid that out. But I think when we're talking about autistic leadership specifically, as Devin shared, we are not hierarchical. As Robin Sharma says, it's not about the title or the position. And I tend to look at how we as autistic people approach leadership in a very different way from the rest of the world. And that is, we are more collaborative in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest differences is it's not hierarchical, as Devin shared, but I say it's also a collaborative leadership approach that we take. And I want to go a little deeper on this, Philip, if you're willing to go with me, my friend.
That's why I asked you on to talk about this. Go right ahead.
we can have a conversation around leadership and even talking about how we lead in different ways, from our cultural norms. Because autistic people, we have cultural norms, but I think the root of beautiful collaborative leadership, where we are leaving people better than we found them, where we are being a positive influence, and where we are truly connecting heart to heart with another person, with another group of people, moving in an agreed upon destination.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with self leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We cannot lead others until we have learned to lead ourselves.
Exactly.
And in my book coming out May 2nd on my birthday this year, my book is called Unveil You. And it's the foundations of an intimate, authentic relationship with yourself. And when we're talking about leadership, beginning with that self leadership piece is so very powerful.
I totally agree with that. The other part that needs to be said on this is that autistics lead as we interact with our autistic culture. You know, um, Rachel Cullen was on last April, by which she says, when you begin with autistic culture and language, and I'm going to add leadership here, we don't start with how we lead others outside the autistic community until we lead within the culture of autistics, because as autistics, we know each other's strengths, we know each other's challenges. And what's funny about this is that, again, going back to Devin Price, he said, well, it's obvious, well, at least it's obvious to other autistics anyway, we actually socialize better than we're given credit for. And I love how you you blow the myth away that we can't lead of our um, because of how much we're stigmatized by non-autistics. And so I love how you're doing this. I really do. I think we want to really talk about too that when autistics lead, we lead by leading ourselves. And in a couple weeks, you're going to hear from my audience is going to hear from Becca Laurie Hector. We're going to talk about self-care as personal autistic leadership. But
Yes.
and so
Oh, I love that. So,
you
that sparked my joy.
oh yeah, and this is where you too. I mean, you do talk about personal self-care here, and you're right. We can't lead others unless we're also leading ourselves. And that's one of those things that I feel is so wonderfully countercultural, in the sense that, we're not just taking care of everybody else, we're taking care of ourselves so that we can, of course, be caring for the autistic community right now. And we're so in need of that multidimensional leadership, and it begins with taking care of ourselves. So please continue on from that as you feel led.
I think there are some beautiful components to self leadership, specifically as we're talking about that intimate, authentic connection
Yes.
relationship with ourselves. Because what I've noticed is very different in autistic leadership versus the rest of the world's definition and understanding, right? It's usually this title, this position, and because I've quote unquote earned it, or because I look this way, or I sound this way, or I show up this way, then I'm the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They look, in the external world, they're looking at different qualities. And I find from a cultural perspective in the autistic world, we're looking at what kind of vibe do I get from you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, what's your heart? What matters to you? What sparks your joy? What
Absolutely.
lights you up? We're looking at leadership from that place.
Yep.
more often, and in that collaborative way of, you know, we specifically, I think, from a cultural norm standard, and I mean, this varies. Not everybody has this to the same degree, but we're very just minded.
Mm-hmm.
If we see an injustice, if something is wrong, if something is not being treated well, if something isn't working and it's broken, and we see a really easy way to fix it, or we see how to fix it, we immediately jump in and just do it, because why wouldn't you fix it? Why would you leave that broken or in a way that's harming someone?
Mm-hmm.
And I I have to say that in my research into autistic burnout, one of the things that I lived for myself and what I hear, in the interviews as I've spoken to hundreds and almost thousands of people over the last 4 years around their burnout experience, it's that we don't take care of ourselves first,
Mm-hmm.
typically. And when we're talking about leadership and really stepping into, and I love you're going to have this conversation with Baccalaureate Hector.
Mm.
This is such a big one. But self leadership begins with self compassion.
Yes. Very good.
It begins with courage
Yep.
to look at ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with, I say, it's a duality here. It's compassionate curiosity.
Yeah. And it also is, again, what Devin said was, we are the first to say no. I am not going to follow that unjust rule, and I am not going to be used as someone's tool of oppression. We
Yes.
are very good at identifying something that is unjust and say, no, I am not going to fit myself into that unjust mold. I'm going to create my own, and I'm going to make it work for me. Right?
And thank goodness for the folks in our autistic community who are brave and courageous and show up that way, because there's a
Yes.
whole other section of us that feel that way, but through trauma and life experience,
Right.
we are terrified because the world does not feel safe to us. And even though we see it and it wounds us and we are hurt by it and we
Right.
want to fix it, we're too scared to.
Yes. And that's what troubles me most about the environment right now, within politics, but also what's happening within the social sphere for autistics is that, the systems that we've created to, you know, um, make us more visible to ourselves and also, to express our concerns and get our needs met. Those systems are being challenged right now, and of course, it's scaring the life out of a lot of us. And let me just say up front, we are validating your concern as to why you would be afraid. But I am also going to say that this is where your leadership begins with finding ways to look after yourself. Um, you know, you and I have talked in the past about how like we like to be people pleasers, and I'm sure you can say as well as I can say that one of the biggest logs for the fire of burnout is that we try to please everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves. And this is why you and Baccalaureate Hector and I and several others, we talk, it's important for you to look after yourself. You can't really change an environment around you if you're not looking after your own needs. And, you know, we know sometimes just getting that space by yourself, you have to literally make your boundaries, which we're going to talk about also with this. If you don't do that, then, like I say, it's difficult for you to feel like you're getting ahead or getting control. And, you know, um, you know, we live in a society that has really, really gaslighted autistics feeling what you're feeling, what you're actually feeling. So a lot of that really causes a lot of us to second guess ourselves or even gaslight ourselves as to what we're feeling. But quite frankly, if you're feeling angry, you're angry. You have a right to. If you're feeling sad and you need to burst in tears, then you need to do that for yourself too, because part of your looking after yourself is meeting yourself where you're feeling these things and let yourself feel them, and then then you can kind of over time try to find your ways of coming back so that you can continue. I've said this in the past too. The thing about emotions is that when you're feeling emotion, you're not exactly rational. And if you're not rational, then it's hard to determine what to do next. So that's why you need to look after yourself.
There's a lot to unpack in what you just said.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
May I unpack some of this, please?
Yes, you may.
For our audience listening, because I think this is really important. Let's start with the people pleasing part. It is usually a survival response by so many of us to stay safe, to feel safe.
Mm.
And that people pleasing part, one of the things that really helped open me up to stepping out of, I am a recovering people pleaser, y'all. I am still always working on this one, deeply ingrained, right?
Mm-hmm.
From childhood. But one of the important things that really helped me begin to step into self-leadership and leadership within the community was, am I willing to sacrifice my peace later, my long-term peace, for some temporary peace in this moment?
Yep.
And that was big for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that people pleasing emerges for so many of us is, as we are developing, as we are exploring, and we're discovering the world, and we're sharing very openly, that light hurts me. It's too bright. These clothes don't feel good to me. It makes my skin burn. Or my feelings were hurt and I'm crying and it really hurt my feelings. I'm hurt. I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
And the world responds to all of that with, nobody else is hurt by the light. It's just bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you. You're weird.
Mm-hmm.
You can't possibly be experiencing that. Or, why are you crying? No one else is crying. She said the same thing to everybody else in this group. Why are you overreacting and being
Yep.
so dramatic? Right? So all of that messaging creates something internally
Yes.
that says, I cannot trust myself. The world is telling me my experiences, even though I know I feel them, but when I share them, I'm being told they're wrong or they're not accurate.
Right.
So I can't even trust that experience. And how that impacts our self-leadership is tremendous.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And for those of us who are alexithymic, and we have all the feelings and they show up and they're really big and our whole body is like feeling the feels, but we don't know how to transcribe it to make sense of it in our mind, whether it's the good stuff, the bad stuff, or the neutral in between stuff. So we've learned to push it down, suppress it, and put it in its own little box and compartmentalize it, because it doesn't feel safe, because our brain goes, I don't know what that is. So we just have to move it over here and box
That's
it up,
right.
and you just keep going.
That's right.
And all of that shows up
Yep.
in how we lead ourselves and whether we are leading or not leading within our own lives first, and then how that extends to the people we love. Because really, when we're talking about leadership, we're talking about the relationship and how we lead ourselves, and we're talking about how we lead the people we love.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Which really comes down to, as autistic individuals, part of your own self-leadership so that you can lead others includes just giving over that idea that there's something wrong with you, and we will both tell you, no, there is not something wrong with you. You are the way you were made, or the way you've come to this world, and it's important, it's valid, and We are who we are, and we have to be that way. After this next commercial break, Carole will share her heartfelt thoughts with the many intersectional autistic communities that are being harmed by actions from our current administration. We will also talk about some organizations that have been creating environments for autistic leaders and the role interdependence and independence plays in autistic leadership.
MICC provides transformative education and training for autistic and neurodivergent adults to live independently, work purposefully, and thrive in community. With hands-on learning and caring guidance, MICC participants accomplish things they never imagined, from daily living tasks like taking public transportation or managing finances, to building and sustaining a career and lifelong friendships. Learn more about our inclusive community in Richfield, Minnesota at micc.org.
Autistic adults aren't getting the support we need. It affects our health, our income, financial stability, and our ability to live independently. ITI Assistive Technologies is changing that. This autistic-led team has created Decide with tools built for neurodivergent minds. One lets users quickly pick from custom lists based on their energy level. The other guides them through big decisions using simple agree-disagree statements that match their values. Visit itiassist.com/decide for more information about downloading the app to get all features for just $5 a month.
Hello, autism community. My name is Lisa Morgan. I'm an autistic adult too, and I know firsthand what it feels like to be unintentionally harmed by well-meaning professionals when reaching out for help. My passion is to help autistic people find and use their own unique strengths to help themselves. Are you rule-based, a literal thinker, have a focused interest? Let's figure out together how to use the strengths of autism to find solutions. I offer life coaching for autistic adults and individualized workshops for professionals. To find out more, go to autismcrisissupport.com.
This episode of today's Autistic Moment features author and podcaster Carole Jean-Whittington. This installment is focused on empowering autistic adults to thrive amidst challenging rhetoric that scapegoats neurodivergent individuals. The podcast aims to provide support and insights for the autistic community through conversations with autistic advocates who are working towards systemic change by sharing authentic experiences of autistic adults. To continue providing valuable content and support for autistic adults, today's Autistic Moment is seeking your financial assistance. Supporters can contribute in several ways. One, you can make a one-time donation to the coffee icon, once more that is ko-fi icon, when you tap or click on Support Today's Autistic Moment on todaysautisticmoment.com. Two, you can become a monthly supporter via Patreon. Three, you can purchase today's Autistic Moment merchandise, such as 16-ounce drinking cups or lapel pins from the logo shop. While donations are not tax deductible, they help maintain the podcast production quality by funding studio expenses, software, and equipment. By supporting today's autistic moment, listeners contribute to the continuation of important conversations and resources for the autistic community. Thank you for your support for today's autistic moment. So I'm going to lead into our next question, which is, we know that autistics are engaging in autistic leadership, and how can we create environments to affect change? Among the problems that we right now have is that our intersectional communities, especially our LGBTQ communities, and in particular our transgender communities, are really being hit hard. And let me return to something that I have said on numerous occasions. A lot of autistics are transgender by nature. It's just a fact that has been circulating. So actually, when they're harming, when statements are being said that harm transgender people, they are harming the autistic community as a whole. So let's put that aside now. And also because of the fact that I have become a believer that autistic individuals, regardless of the gender you were born in or even your sexual orientation, whatever that may be, we are gender nonconforming. We do not conform to what most people would say is male or female. Okay, so part of engaging, I want to say, and then I'll let you talk, Carole, is that we accept ourselves, and that the other part is that we are always somehow engaged in the work of getting to know our intersectional communities and being a voice for those intersectional communities as best as we can, because whatever our cultural differences are, our whatever our particular differences are, we are all engaged in that work together. And it really comes down to recognizing who we are and who others are around us. So, Carole, take off on that.
I think before we move into systemic gaps or how to begin stepping into your authentic autistic leadership, I would love for your heart to hear me for a moment.
Yep.
My precious darling, you are already whole. There is nothing missing from you. Nothing added to you or taken away from you would change how wonderful you already are, how enough and worthy you already are. For me, right now, I think the most impactful thing I can do to lead, to make sure that the people who are truly terrified right now, who do not feel safe, because the space that was being created and had been created that was supporting them has been erased. I think this is, from a leadership standpoint, the opportunity and possibilities abound, because I believe in the universal law that there is not a problem that and a solution does not already exist.
Mm.
And I believe part of the beauty of autistic leadership is that we are so creative. We are beautiful systemic thinkers in so many ways, and we are creative in just the most absolutely blissful ways. And we can look at the 30,000-foot view and the micro, macro levels, the nano levels of all the components simultaneously, many of us. And I believe that right now is the beautiful opportunity for us to claim and lead in ways that we didn't look for before because solutions were there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's just humans, people, we get a little comfy and complacent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a beautiful opportunity. And I think part of it is that it starts in our own backyards.
Yes.
You must start with where you live, your physical geography. I love the global connection that we have, and I
Mm-hmm.
love how very global we are as a community of autistic people and as a culture, how we're beginning to connect and really nurture the development of our culture. And I
Yes.
think that we take that and we bring that into our own backyards in small ways. It doesn't have to be huge because it's that butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's that what is the beating of the butterfly's wing in the rainforest ripples out and it ends up being a tsunami on the other side of the world. I mean, this is truly, I believe, the strength, the power, and the uniqueness of autistic leadership. And I believe that we
Mm-hmm.
are given this opportunity right now. And I am imploring, I am calling you up. I am saying, rise,
Mm-hmm.
stand strong, begin with your own self leadership, and begin in your own backyard
Yeah.
because this is how we do this together.
Absolutely.
Not, I love the African proverb, if you want to go far, go alone. Fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
And as collaborative folks, I believe we go together and we go very far.
One of the reasons I wanted to take on this focus for this year, right after I started today's autistic movement back in 2021, we were still in the admittedly leaning end of the pandemic. And after I started recording and publishing shows, I just happened to wander on and find LinkedIn. And what blew me away was the autistics who were showing up on there. And they were already in the process of saying, we may be quarantined and we have to worry about our health right now, and we have so much stuff around us. But that's not going to change the fact that I need to learn more about my autistic self, and I need to network with other autistics to learn how I can gain a better appreciation of ourselves. And that's where a lot of the voices that my audience is hearing on today's autistic moment, they came from those connections. I mean, it was just amazing to me. And so one thing that I do believe from experience and from that, especially that experience, boy, when we get into a spot where we've got to do some things and we get an environment like LinkedIn because we don't have the nasty comments that go on other social media platforms. But the point is that when we do things like that, the autistic community shines, to me anyway. We shine.
Yes, I agree.
You know what I mean? I mean, we saw all kinds of folks on there coming out of the woodwork, and including one who actually isn't autistic. That was Samuel J. Levine. He's done a lot of work on employment and that sort of thing. He came out. He said, "I want to be on your show because I've longed to talk about this in a place where I know I can." That sort of thing. So,
Yep.
but the film, but
That's what you do best, Philip.
thank you. No, but I'm saying, it was just one of those things where I said, "Wow, the world may be quarantining still, and we may be still wearing our masks and whatever, but I see this whole group of people who are saying, I'm not just taking this lying down anymore. I'm going to do what I have to do for myself, but I'm going to network with other people and find out how can we do this? What are some ways we can do this?" We saw authors coming together. We saw podcasters coming together. I mean, before I started the podcast and before I found LinkedIn, I didn't know that there were other autistic podcasters out there. And once I found them in LinkedIn, I said, oh no, I'm not alone in this. I'm just doing
Oh,
it.
goody goody.
I know, I know. I'm just doing it from one particular focus perspective. And I said, well, we got some who are doing it like Angela Kandon with the Autistic Culture podcast. We've got, several people like you and several. I'm like, wow, I didn't know they were there. And then I found him. I said, this, and that's where I say the strength of the autistic community. You know, we have our problems because of society marginalizing us. Yes, but let me tell you something I've learned. The autistic adult community, when we're ready to start doing something about it, we have amazing minds that come to say, I'm going to do something in my own way and I'm going to make a difference. And they do. They most certainly
Yes.
do. And that's what I say. Part of the gift of today's autistic moment is finding them and giving them this safe space. Use your voices. Let's tell the world the truth about who we are. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I just, and that's a perfect way to lead into my third question, which we're talking about interdependence, really. Let's talk about how autistics are leaders through their lives in their unique context. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. I mean, we're talking about autistic leading themselves, but we're also talking about when we come together and we do our thing from whatever perspective we happen to be in, we change. We change things for the autistic culture within the autistic culture. I mean, when I started going to the Autistic Community Summit and the autism conferences with the Autism Society of Minnesota, I was so pleased because I was in a breakout session and there's these several people sitting along the side of the room or sitting against the rear wall. They're stimming, they're fidgeting, they're just going through their phones, and everybody's just, okay, that's how you want to do things? Fine. you know? Uh, those are the things I love about this community. So, and now it's your turn, Carole.
I think when we talk about that interconnectedness,
Yes.
right? I think AJ Lacatio and Jessica Johns just knew such that interdisciplinary, right?
Yes.
How that they do such a beautiful job of talking about this topic, um, which you absolutely have to have them here to have that conversation. I know that you've met them in person, and I'm so jealous that you've gotten to do that. Uh, but I think my take on that is as humans, no matter our neurotype, we are interdependent upon one another.
Absolutely.
You, in modern age, we do not go to the grocery store and buy XYZ that at least 10 other people have not had some part in making sure it was there and available for you to purchase and take home. You might say, "Oh, this is my paycheck. I earned it, and I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to deposit it, and I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to buy it. I'm going to come home. I'm going to cook it and I'm going to eat it. And I did all of that by myself." No, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That is an illusion that you've told yourself, because we hear, and I think this is one of the things that is so harmful and it is heartbreaking when I hear parents say to their child or say to someone else, "I just want my autistic child to be independent."
Mm.
Yet they themselves are not independent. It is this false definition and belief of what being independent is.
Yep.
We are all interdependent upon one another. And I think one of the beautiful things about the autistic culture
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about leadership within our culture, in this collaborative place, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see something or we see someone is struggling and they need help. Man, we all come together. We're like, oh, how can we help you? What do you need? Right? Or I've got this thing, here you go. And I think that if we took more of that collaborative nature, that cultural norm of how we support one another without thinking twice about it. Know very few autistic people that think, oh, well, this is mine and I don't want to share it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, here you go. And then we're like, oh, I might have needed some of that. Can I have a little bit back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we don't move forward without one another.
Yep, that's right. This is where I get to talk about Minnesota Independence College and Community, and some of their folks are coming on in April to talk about educating the future autistic leaders that we have in the world, because that program is absolutely incredible. Minnesota Independence College and Community has taken a suite in an apartment building, and they help autistics and others with various learning differences. I know some don't like that term, so I'm sorry, but there are some with various learning differences can take a college like education, and they can be given, learn actual jobs and that sort of thing. But more importantly, they actually use some of the apartments in that building so that these students can learn about living with others around them. You know, they get to learn how to do laundry and manage some of their executive functioning, and they get to learn how to deal with other people who might be in a conflict with. They learn how to do those things, okay? And we know that for a lot of autistics, putting us in an environment where we can actually learn some of this, or develop ourselves, it really does a wonder. And Minnesota Independence College and Community is doing exactly that. Now, I would suggest that part of independence is also learning to be interdependent. Being interdependent also comes from learning some things about being independent. And MICC and other programs like it, they're working to help them build those skills. So, it's one of Minnesota's great programs that I love. And as you know, Minnesota Independence College and Community is a generous sponsor of today's Autistic Moment, and that's one of the reasons why I love having them on board. Um, and so, like I said, they're going to talk about educating the future of autistic leadership, and boy, do they do a great job on it. And then the other part that's we're going to talk about in April is going to be mentoring future autistic leadership, because Emily Goldberg, whom I've met in person, what she did is she's worked with several other neurodivergent individuals to come together and bring autistic adults together to mentor autistic teens and youth. Because a lot of us have said, if only we had had someone else who was autistic when we were younger, if only we had had some people to relate to. Well, this organization is doing just that. During the school year, they have this hour-long session with mentees and mentors, and they play games or just talk, or they just do whatever they do. And these are people in Minnesota who are changing this landscape so that leaders can be born, and leaders can be mentored, and leaders can thrive. So that's what we're going to do in for Autism Month in April. But Carole, this is kind of an example of what we're talking about. But I think autistic leadership means, you know, I don't want to say giving us our space to lead, but also, what's the word I want to say? Nurturing ourselves to lead. What do you think of those terms?
I like the nurturing.
Yes.
And one of the things that I have discovered for myself and in the unveiling method and here at Whittington Wellbeing, one of the focuses that we have is mentoring. Mentoring, peer mentoring, as well as mentoring to the next generation of autistics. And I'm going to say that I believe autistic leadership is you do not need someone else's permission to lead.
That's right.
Give yourself permission to lead.
Yep.
Own
yourself
your
that permission.
space. It is yours, darling. You do not have to ask for permission. Step into it in your self leadership, in your leadership with others, within your family, within your community. You do not need permission to lead. And when you do, you are helping others give themselves permission to step up and lead as well, especially the next generation.
After this final commercial break, Carole will say a few words about how she sees autistic women leading, followed by today's Autistic Community Bulletin Board. Today's episode is brought to you by Matthew, the hashtag ActuallyAutistic Coach. If you're an autistic adult seeking support, or a friend, family member looking to better understand and assist autistic adults, Matthew is your go-to resource. As a seasoned teacher, consultant, and mentor, Matthew is dedicated to empowering the autistic community. He offers free support groups for autistic adults, educational workshops, and online meditation circles for mindfulness. For organizations, Matthew provides specialized training sessions on inclusivity. With over 15 years of mentoring autistic entrepreneurs, he offers personalized one-on-one coaching, guiding individuals to start businesses, manage careers, and build healthy relationships while embracing their authentic autistic selves. Matthew believes in thriving, not just surviving. Visit theautisticcoach.com today for a more empowered future. On March 23rd, Becca Lori Hector will join me for the episode Self-Care is Personal Autistic Leadership. When we take care of ourselves by setting boundaries to regulate our autistic needs, we are doing personal leadership. Becca and I will talk about self-care is taking ownership of our health and well-being so that we can do the important work of leadership through the example of how we interact with the world around us. Autism Month in April begins on April 13th during an episode with Jenna Olson, a graduate from Minnesota Independence College and Community, to talk about educating future autistic leadership. Jenna will talk about how MICC prepared her for independent living with a fulfilling career in a college that gave her the supports to be successful. MICC educates future autistic leaders who will lead by example as they navigate through the challenges they face. On April 27th, Emily Goldberg and Anna Voigt, with the Autism Mentorship Program, will talk about mentoring future autistic leadership. The Autism Mentorship Program is very successful because autistic adults mentor autistic teens and youth. Through sharing special interests, playing games, or just being with an autistic adult, autistic teens find safe spaces with people who help them feel safe to be themselves. Thank you for listening to today's Autistic Moment. I don't want autistic women to think I'm ignoring them, especially since we're in March for Women's History Month. So my final question to you, Carol, is going to, because you work with autistic women and burnout and that sort of thing, would you like to talk uh, about how you see autistic women leading? What are some things you've seen? And um, tell us some things that you've learned as you've been helping them through burnout and you're seeing them lead. So go ahead.
Oh, that is such a beautiful question. And I love how it just sparked all the joy and all the whiz pops. We are recording this on a Tuesday, and this is the day that I host our Accelerate membership for the Unveiling Method. And this is where autistic women come together.
Mm-hmm.
And I I give guidance around whatever particular module someone's working on right now in the Unveiling Method and their journey out of burnout. And as we talk about self-leadership and we talk about leading others, this is how I have seen beautiful leadership from women, autistic women today in particular. And that was sharing the things that were scary out
Mm,
loud to another person.
mm,
Allowing in that brave, courageous moment, leading themselves, saying, I'm stepping out on a limb. And this is what I was thinking. This is how I was feeling. And I got a whole lot of stuff going on in my head about what it means. But I know that half of it or 90% of it isn't true, but I trust myself and I trust this group and I'm going to share it.
mm-hmm.
And when one person simply led by example in that scary moment, the whole group opened. And everyone then said, this was mine. This was how I was feeling, or this is what's going on with me right now. And I think that that's one of the ways, uniquely as autistic women, because there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of
Mm,
guilt, there's a lot of heavy, hurtful things that we have carried quietly,
mm-hmm.
silently from childhood into our adulthood.
Yep.
And that is a place where we can harness that as we begin to heal from within.
Mm,
And as we step into that self leadership, it translates out into the world, into our families, into our workplaces, into our communities. And to me, it is this power of unmasking. I say unveiling,
mm,
unveiling you to yourself first, and then how beautiful it is when an autistic woman says, I am removing this veil, I am setting this mask down, and I'm going to allow you to see me, and I'm going to shine my light.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah. And what I love about that is that it flies in the face of the misconceptions about autistic women. Number one, the misconception that you don't exist, uh, which nonsense.
That we have too many big feelings.
Yeah. I once had a spiritual director who was fond of saying that the reason why nonsense is so popular is because people actually pay attention to it, and he was not wrong. Anyway, um, but yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, Carole Jean-Whittington, it is always my pleasure to talk with you and to have you here. Once again, you brought your enthusiasm and your information, your experience to my audience, and it is a wonderful thing to see. Um, and so, thank you so much for this. And you, my friend, and me, we're in this together from our own place perspective, the place where we can make an impact. And it is my pleasure to be partnered with you in this work. So, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It is always an honor. It is a privilege, and it is the joy of my heart
Mm.
to be able to have conversation with you and to be able to collaborate and work together in our shared leadership in the autistic community.
Yeah, thank you so much. Today's Autistic Community Bulletin Board. All of these events and many others with their links not mentioned here are available on today'sautisticmoment.com/bulletin board. You are invited to the Adult Coffee Club for Autistic Adults in Minnesota. They are held on the second Tuesday of every month, weather permitting, at Dogwood Coffee, located at 2700 University Ave West, Suite 100 in St. Paul, Minnesota. The zip code is 55114. The adult coffee clubs will begin at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on March 11th, April 15th, May 13th, June 10th. Understanding Autism virtual classes are offered by the Autism Society of Minnesota. The next classes will be on March 10th, 6 to 7 p.m., April 14th, 10 to 11 a.m., May 12th, 12 to 1 p.m., and June 6th, 6 to 7 p.m. Classes are free of charge, but you must register to attend. Beginning on Saturday, March 15th, and continuing March 22nd and the 29th from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., Jillian Nelson will present the workshop Policy Power Advocacy for an Inclusive Future. Register today to attend the 30th Minnesota Autism Conference, April 16th through the 18th, at the Doubletree by Hilton Minneapolis Airport Hotel on 2020 American Boulevard in East Bloomington, Minnesota. The zip code there is 55425. There will be keynote speakers, in-person and virtual breakout sessions, social opportunities for community building, and resource tables. The hyperlink to this event is on the transcript and on today'sautisticmoment.com/bulletin board. Go to ausm.org to get more information about these and other social and recreational programs, educational events, counseling services, and support groups at the Autism Society of Minnesota. Min Neurodivergent is a social club rooted in a vision of bringing neurodivergent Minnesotans together to build meaningful connections. Its core principle is to foster an environment where all are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of ability or preferences. Go to their new website, mindivergent.org. That's MENEURODIVERGENT.org for more information, become a member, volunteer, and attend their events. Umbrella US invites you to a webinar by Brainbow Media on March 19th at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time entitled Accessibility Today Equals a Better Tomorrow. The cost is $20 and scholarships are available. Go to the transcripts for this episode or today'sautisticmoment.com/bulletin board and click on Accessibility Today to register. Today's Autistic Moment is here because of the generosity of supporters and sponsors. Please go to today'sautisticmoment.com and select Support Today's Autistic Moment to donate. If you have questions about today's Autistic Moment, please send an email to today'sautisticmoment@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Today's Autistic Moment, a podcast for autistic adults by an autistic adult. May you have an autistically amazing day. All of the guests meet with me on Zoom to record the interviews. The interview transcripts are provided by Otter. The podcast is prepared and edited on WavePad Masters Edition by NCH Software. The podcast is published by Spotify for Podcasters. The music that you hear is licensed to Today's Autistic Moment by PremiumBeat.com.